Today joining us, we have Peter Malick. He is the founder of Inbound AV. We're going to go through a few things today. We're going to discover your implementation must-haves, how to drive growth through your CRM, and then also the key items you need to have in place before implementation. So Peter has a presentation prepared for us, and then we're going to open it up. We have some questions for him. We can take some questions from the audience and just kind of see where the conversation takes us. But if you have any questions in the meantime or during the presentation, chat them in and we will make sure to get to them after. Peter, go ahead.
Cool. Hi, everybody. So I think before I even introduce myself more, I'd like to frame this conversation. And so I have the shortest history of the internet that has ever been assembled, and I'm going to share that with you. We have a good title of this slide deck. And so I'm going to go through basically the phases of internet development, and I have, there's some logic to my plan here, so bear with me. So obviously, before the digital era, all advertising, promotion, and so forth was a one-way communication. Billboards, newspapers, magazines, radio, TV, and companies basically could gather some information about what's working and what isn't, but obviously didn't have any sort of level of information that we have today at all. So with the rise of the internet, and I didn't even know this, but my researcher provided this interesting little factoid. 10th of September 1990, Archie was the first search engine, and it was released, which I think is possibly entirely irrelevant, but also an interesting factoid. So more relevant data is in October 1994, the first ever clickable banner ad appears on the Hotwired website, which gave people the ability to go and actually look at a product and potentially buy it. But the big earth-shaking event was the 23rd of October 2000. Google AdWords is born, and that changes the internet forever. And it changes the internet forever because you had the ability to buy ads and also pay by the click of how many people clicked on that ad, and also get feedback from Google about what type of people were clicking on eventually as this data matured. But you can definitely get information on how many clicks there were and various other data, as we know, or as you may know today. You can find what's the bounce rate of your site, how sticky is the site once somebody gets there, and a number of other data points. And those data points can be really informative as far as you iterating on the system and improving the ads and improving the results. But so today, we've gone way beyond that original model of Google. And we kind of look at, this is the HubSpot flywheel. HubSpot, if you guys are not familiar with it, is a marketing automation platform. It's possibly one of the most, well, it is the most full-featured marketing platform. But there are a number of them. And in marketing automation, you have the ability to put information out there, but also get back much more sophisticated data about it that's actionable. And so what I mean by that is that with a marketing automation platform, you could send out a Google ad, and that ad would be tracked within that platform. You could schedule social. The social results are captured in that platform. You can send out emails. The email results, including what page somebody visits, how long they spent on that page, did they take an action, for instance, booking a meeting with you or buying a widget, and all of that information is captured in that platform. So consequently, rather than in the days of Google and maybe you had a MailChimp account, and each of those would provide you with a specific set of information, but the ability to tie it all together is the most powerful combination that has developed, up until now. And so the reason I wanted to show you that this is the entire deck. The reason I wanted to show you this is that most of us are stuck somewhere between the Google AdWords model, which includes maybe, again, having a constant contact account or a MailChimp account, and this today's model, which really is like this rainbow of features, and it can totally inform the results that you are getting from marketing. And it can inform them to the point that your competitor is often using it. And if you're not, you're at a serious competitive disadvantage. And if you're using it and your competitor is not, you are at a significant advantage over that company. So that's how I wanted to frame this conversation, is really talking about how we can fully get from that early 2000s model, which is where a lot of us are stuck, to like a 2023 model and beyond. And the 2023 model and beyond also incorporates AI, and there's a lot that can be done with AI to help drive the effectiveness of these platforms. But that's my overview. So there we go. I'm going to stop my share. And Ashley.
Yeah, that was perfect. Great overview. I kind of want to take it even like a step back before you even implement your CRM. I want to know like what type of processes and what type of data that you need to have before you even implement. Like, how do you set yourself up for success?
Well, I mean, really, depending upon where you're at in the development of your company or your business, you have data. You have some email names of prospective clients, hopefully, current clients. You have a website that people are interacting with, and basically, with a marketing automation platform, you're going to start with whatever you've got. Now, if you don't have a website yet, that's something you definitely would want to start with. If you don't have a mailing list yet, that's something we could build within a marketing automation platform. But at the same time, a little bit of research and just thinking will yield you a start of a mailing list. It could be potential friends who might be referral sources, or it could be any number of things. For a service company that hasn't really branched out into internet sales, it could be, people, companies that they've serviced. But the where you need to start, the only real prerequisite I would say is to have a website, and we can talk a little bit more about what that means too.
Okay, okay. And then how do organizations ensure that all of this data is like accurate from the start? Because if you have inaccurate data and you get started, then it's more of you have to backtrack and fix.
Okay, so I think that typically the data that you're going to have is some sort of email list. Now, it's really important to keep that data refreshed and accurate, as you say, Ashley, but it's important for a number of reasons, and ones that go even beyond what you might think they are. Now, obviously, you want to have accurate data. You don't want to be sending to people who would be likely to send you to spam. You don't want to be sending to people or companies that that aren't really interested in being on your list. You don't want to send to people or companies that are whose emails are just out of date, that they're just not somebody's emails anymore. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One of them is obviously you want the list to be healthy. You're probably paying for different levels depending upon how many emails you have, so it's going to save you money. But the most important aspect of that is that in the world we live in right now, email deliverability is not an easy thing to get right. And so, where I usually start, if a client comes to us and they have a list of 5,000, 50,000, we have one company that has 1.3 million contacts. All of those email addresses need to be run through an email validation service, which will tell you, okay, this is a really solid email address. This is a kind of risky email address. And there's a couple other categories. It's like, no, you just want to remove them. And so you come down to really solid email addresses, which are, obviously going to be part of your email address. The risky ones, you might want to make determinations based on what and what your business is and the dynamic of how you reach out to people. And the risky ones, usually the majority of them are people who existed at a company but may not exist anymore. And so the email address is still open, but who's getting it is really uncertain. So that's one of the things that you really need to dig into and make sure that all of that email list is healthy, because if you don't have strong deliverability of your email, that's going to harm your deliverability going forth. So in other words, a really healthy email list will give your domain a really strong reputation, and the different providers, whether it be like a MailChimp or a HubSpot or any mailing list, any company that you could send to a mailing list, they will put you on, if you have a really solid email list, they'll put you on a server that also has a really good reputation. And so that allows the reputation of your email list even to grow. And the other side of the coin is if you have really poor email deliverability or poor open rates, that your emails are being opened under 10%, that's going to land you on a server where your reputation is likely going to decrease. And so these are really important considerations going in.
Amazing. Other than, let's just say, like keeping inaccurate data in your system, are there other types of like common pitfalls or common mistakes that people make when they're like implementing for the first time, or maybe even like changing systems?
Absolutely. And I think that's a really important and pivotal moment when you actually change systems. You move from one piece of software to another, or you may in fact have data stored on spreadsheets. That's how you've done business up until now. But it's very important to take a step back and plan exactly how that data is going to be imported. If you're moving from mailing list platform A to marketing automation platform B, there is there's a lot of stuff that needs to be considered. You may not be able to get 100% of the data that you need out of mailing list platform A. So you want to really take a look into that and determine, if you're not getting everything you need, to make a plan in order for you to be able to get it. And further, there may in fact be data that you need to think through, because if platform A has a relationship between contacts in a company and that company that's different from what you're moving to, that's another thing that really has to be considered before you make the move. So it has to be done thoughtfully and with planning.
Yeah. Okay. Great point. Okay. One last question on implementation. I had a lot of questions there. So if a business is implementing or moving a system and they're looking, of course, for success in that process, what are the KPIs that they should be tracking? Like, what do they need to have in place to make sure that it's a smooth transition and they're checking all their boxes?
Well, I think that, I don't know if I'd call them KPIs or key performance indicators, but I think it's just a matter of mapping out exactly what you hope to accomplish with this new platform that you're not getting right now, or that you think you could do better with, and really identifying that. And then when data is moved in, that we really think about what the architecture of the new system is going to be. It could be very simple. I mean, you might be selling a simple product and you just want data to come in. And as long as those email addresses are good, you market to them, you make sales. But there could be a more robust integration needed where your product may be a high value, big ticket item that also takes a long time to actually sell, to close a deal. And in that situation, it's important to have different and enhanced types of data brought into that marketing automation platform, where you can use to the best extent possible, you can use how a company or an individual has reacted with your marketing material to inform how best to move forward, how to plan the future campaigns, and again, sort of iterate on it so that you're getting sales that you wouldn't have gotten with the limited data that you're in on the old platform. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you maybe want to give us an example of that, of how, with that additional data, how you would make a next step and plan for your next marketing effort?
Sure. Well, all right. This is a larger integration, but we work with a large franchising business. And that franchising business is headquartered here in Los Angeles, which is coincidental because most of our clients are not where I am. But they're headquartered here in Los Angeles. They're extremely successful. And they sell master franchise opportunities, master franchisees, which will be assigned like a region, New York City, central Minnesota, whatever it is. And right now, that company has 75 different master franchisees, and those master franchisees will sell to the unit franchisees, the people who are actually going to be doing the work. They're a business services company that does maintenance, maintenance for schools, dental offices, whatever. So in this instance, we had to set up basically 75 different data partitions so that each of those master franchisees would have their particular data that they needed, the potential customers that they have, the customers that they have, and any of the leads that are coming in. And from franchisee to franchisee, they're not going to be able to see each other's data. But the president of the company, who is, thankfully a total data geek, has set up like extensive dashboards to sort of monitor what's happening below, to like determine like what franchisees are being really successful, and then dig into like, well, they're being successful, but why? And using the data that he has access to, he can make that determination. Okay, this is why this is successful. And so we can use that data to teach the master franchisees who aren't as successful how to do better.
Amazing.
That's probably
Okay.
not relevant to a lot of people on this call.
No, but it still made sense. It was great information still. Um, okay, so let's maybe flip it a little bit. Um, in which ways could a CRM help with like improved customer retention and customer loyalty, and using it a little bit more internally?
Sure. So I'll sort of zero in on HubSpot, which is kind of what I feel. It's what we sell, but it's also what I feel is the most powerful platform out there. And just for a little backstory, as a company, we started HubSpot about using HubSpot 4 years ago, and it totally transformed my business. And so I'm happily an evangelist for a platform that's grown my business to 4 times the size it was before we used HubSpot. So in HubSpot, there are different hubs, and you can purchase these or utilize them separately. And there's a CRM, which they call Sales Hub. There's a marketing platform that they call Marketing Hub, unsurprisingly. There's a service platform they call Service Hub. They also have CMS, which is a web building platform, and also a platform called Operations Hub, which I'm not going to get into right now. But based on the data that comes in from an existing customer, for example, is going to inform what you want to do going forward. So in other words, let's take the case of somebody who has a service problem. They have a service problem with the service you're selling, or they have a service problem with the product you're selling, and you're utilizing HubSpot Service Hub as a place where somebody can file a ticket. They can see updates on what's been happening. They can get the resolve going and the conversation going on that. That data could absolutely inform a number of different follow-ups, which will make that customer love you, essentially, and be willing to be an evangelist for your product also, where it becomes, again, this virtuous cycle where the way you handle possibly a bad situation can turn an unhappy customer into a customer who's going to recommend you to everybody that they run into on the street. And so you can take that service data and find certain triggers that you'd want to follow up on, and then use that to create automations that will reach out to all of the service customers in bulk, but seemingly one-on-one. You want to obviously make it look as much as possible as one-on-one, in order to, first of all, what would you say? How was your experience on a scale from 1 to 10? And that's, going to go into the record as a Net Promoter Score. Gives you an idea of okay, a 10. Well, great. I'm going to call on you for a referral maybe, or we can work together. It's 6 or 7. Well, you're pretty satisfied, but you're not really satisfied. What can we do to make it better? And then even the 1s and 2s and 3s, which hopefully you never get any of. But if you do, you might want to dig into it one-on-one to make sure that there's not something that you're doing in your company that is upsetting or disruptive to your clients that you're not even aware of. So all of this information, and that's just one example of information that could be shared between one function and another, can really make your company, can really give it the opportunity for growth, because you have the ability to identify weaknesses in your company and change them.
Yeah, and early on too, being proactive about it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, if you're doing something that really is upsetting to a client, you're probably doing something that's upsetting to more than one client or customer, and you want to uncover that like yesterday.
Exactly. Okay. Okay. Say someone already has their system implemented, it's up and running, but it's not necessarily functioning optimally. Like it could be running better. How can a business kind of diagnose and address whatever that issue might be? And first, how do they figure out what it is? And then what would they do?
Well, I mean, that's kind of the work that we do and companies like Inbound AV do. It's very unlikely that a company, even fairly large companies, is going to have that specific expertise in-house. And so really the most efficient way to do is for somebody like us to come in and do an analysis, an audit of exactly what's going on. And we can identify things that are failing, and maybe we don't need to identify them. Maybe you know what they are already, but we need to figure out why then those things are failing. And yeah, I think that's essentially an overview of the guidance that that you will more than likely need if you're going to go down this route, if you want to move from the 2000 model to the 2020 fully to the 2023 and beyond model.
Okay. What are the most common things that you come across that are failing?
There are so many. Let me think. That's a good question. What is the most common one or common ones? I think integrity of the email list is something that we see a lot of. For existing users of a platform like HubSpot, we will see that the foundation of that account has never been set up so that you can get the value that you want to get out of that account. You could be spending a lot of money on the software, and I see this all the time. There are companies spending a lot of money, larger companies, on the software every month, and they just really don't have it set up in a way that's going to get them the returns. And so they really have, three options. They could discontinue the use of the software. They can keep going as they are now, which also isn't a really great outcome. Or they could bring somebody in who can come in and take a 40,000 foot view of what's going on and be able to identify what needs to be changed, what needs to be developed.
Do you think it's more often that the implementation was maybe rushed, or just that they didn't have the knowledge to set it up correctly from the beginning?
I think it's either or. I mean, with HubSpot, they do onboarding themselves. They actually recommend that you do it with somebody like us, because what they do with a client when you use HubSpot onboarding is they'll have 3 or 4 or 5 meetings with you and give you a list of stuff. Okay, you need to do this, then you need to do this. This is how you do that. And 90% of the time, those things never really get done. And so the foundation just isn't there. I want to, first of all, Ashley, is Shisela in the room?
Yes.
Okay, could you bring her on video? Hi, Shisela.
Hey,
Gisela, yeah.
hi. How are you?
Good. So Shisela is the head of our design and development team, and I wanted to have her on just to really, as things may touch into that area. We always said in the beginning of this how important it is that there's a website, and more important than there is a website is that a functional website? Is it a website that will engage people? Is it a website that will actually generate leads? As example, I speak to companies all the time who could be spending 5 figures a month on Google ads, and they're getting 0 out of it. And oftentimes the biggest factor of that is just where that Google ad is taking you. And is that place where the potential client or customer is landing? Is that something that they're going to really understand what action they need to take? Are they going to be compelled to take that next action? And that's where like website design and specifically UX or user experience design comes in. I'd like to, Gisela, can you try on camera, say hi?
Oh, I don't find where, by the way. I only have the mute or a mute button. I don't
Oh,
have the camera button with
okay,
me.
okay,
Yeah, no problem.
no worry.
Yes.
I also want to, actually, as we discussed going into this, I'd love to have this be an interactive conversation. So does anybody have any questions as far as how far we've gone now? I don't want to keep just sort of throwing facts and opinions at you if I'm not getting you answers to the questions that you're actually looking to get answered.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free, put them in the chat. We'll keep an eye on it. None have come in yet. That doesn't mean they haven't just been waiting.
Okay, fair enough. No problem. Gisela, would you like to speak a little bit about user experience design?
Oh, sure. I still cannot get the video to work. I know I have the button, by the way, but it says something about the host, so it's not that I don't want to show up. Yeah, sure. One of the things that we see pretty often is that, as you were saying, Peter, many companies have these campaigns all set and put together, and they're spending thousands or hundreds of thousands sometimes, and they don't kind of see the obvious. That's like seeing the whole picture of that customer journey that starts very, very earlier than where a person clicks on an ad, a user clicks somewhere, and they were starting this journey before, right? So they probably seen some other websites, they had some ideas, so by the time they reach your website, there are some informed decisions that they're going to make due to what they know already and what they're looking for. And you have to understand where your users are at the time that they reach your website. And that's like digging deeply into customer experience and UX, which comes to kind of design these experiences to the users instead of the other way around. Instead of saying, this is how I want you to think, it's like, no, okay, let me know how you think so I can understand what's best for you, right? What we are usually now seeing with social media and these algorithms, that we call them the algorithm, right? Like how they are designing constantly based on our preferences, what we experience and what we see. So it's very important that we listen to our users and we understand them, our audience, and our eventually our leads, that we want to turn them into leads, right? So on a more in-depth level, understanding the narrative of what your website has to tell, how fast it has to say it, how to the point or not it has to be, and there are many things that have to be taken into account. How sophisticated or how simple it has to be, how enticing or how formal. There are several things that have to be taken into account that go very beyond the mere, I like it or not, which is sometimes what we find is that there are a lot of budget put into a website design that takes on account all these data. And then, the person who makes the decision says, I don't like it. And it's like, what? I don't like it based on what? Because we are not designing for you. We're designing for your customers. And so it's that kind of question of, do you want to be right or you want to be happy? You don't want to make money or you want to be right. So sometimes it's not the same thing. And it's something that we go through and face in our design process. It's very important to take that into account. On a very, very basic level, it's like having your website be responsive so it can be decently, scrolled on devices, on smartphones. It's like a number one, and still there are several websites that are not fully responsive and functional on smartphones. And we also are operating on that very basic level of like, very simple stuff that has to be done on a client's website.
Yeah, and I think there are things that they shouldn't be, but they're easily overlooked. It's probably really common.
No, absolutely. It's very, very common. That's why I said obvious. That's that quote from Jim Rohn, like people should, learn to have obvious 1 and 2 in school, because we always tend to overlook the obvious, and the obvious many times takes us where we want to go, but we don't see it. And that's also very interesting.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Any other last thoughts, Peter?
Well, you know what? I'm going to share, there was actually a 4th slide. I'm going to share it very, very briefly here. And so this particular last slide is showing a few charts out of HubSpot. And this could be different platforms that it's coming out of. It really doesn't matter. But the main point, as far as getting back to that whole flywheel that we looked at first, that really shows that a lot of these interactions are multifaceted, that they're not, like 1 + 1 = 2 necessarily. And so in this chart, it's showing aspects of marketing attribution. And what marketing attribution is you could be doing social, you could be doing paid ads, you could have a YouTube channel or an Instagram account, business account. You could be doing email marketing. You could be doing a number of things. You could be doing postcards in the mail. But what's working? And that's never that easy of an answer. I mean, it may in fact be, if you're looking at here, where are new marketing leads coming in from? Organic search, paid search, email marketing, organic social, marketing qualified leads by source. And these are, again, the same things: paid search, organic search, referrals, email marketing, and there's a number of others in here. How those things tie together can make a huge difference in how successful you are. So in other words, if you're doing email marketing and somewhere along the line, a prospect engages with you on social, the data that you get reported in like a simple reporting system might be, okay, they saw this Facebook ad, they clicked on it and they bought. Therefore, Facebook is where we have to do all of our advertising. But in actuality, clicking on that Facebook ad could be a tiny piece of a puzzle that they've been looking at your product and interacting with you for weeks, months, sometimes years. And so to know what that history is, okay, I sent them an email here, I sent them an email there, they read this blog article here, they interacted with a social post, etc. You can have a better determination if you aggregate that data for a number of different prospects. You can get a better idea of what actually is the most valuable interaction and how do those interactions work together. And you might discover that, you know what, we're doing great on Instagram, but I think we're wasting money on Twitter. But it can also be more nuanced than that, just like seeing how your email marketing may be working. And even though they're not clicking directly from the email that you sent out, they still are ending up on your site or filling out that form, booking a meeting, or buying something. Whoops, excuse me. I meant to dump a call that just came in and I answered it and then I hung up. Oh, well, they're just going to have to deal with it. But anyway, yeah, to actually inform what's working and what isn't working is very, very powerful. And again, it's kind of that difference between where we were when, MailChimp was an amazing thing to get email out to people and you can see who opened it and maybe a couple other things, and to where we are today, where there's just so many more tools and more powerful tools available that can transform your business.
Yeah, and they can all connect. It takes the guesswork right out of it. You can have individual data points for all your different campaigns and different initiatives, but being able to see them all together in one view gives you the full picture.
That's it.
Beautiful. Well, I have no more questions. If we don't have any chat questions, let me check the chat.
Yeah. I don't see
Nothing
anything
yet.
Yeah.
We can wrap up a little bit early, give everyone their time back. Anyone who is still here or anyone who was here previously, I'll make sure that everyone gets the recording and gets Peter's contact information if you guys want to connect on LinkedIn or talk about any other services.
Absolutely. And please feel free to reach out. I mean, I've thrown a lot of information at you in the last 41 minutes. And if one particular thing stuck out to you and resonated in something that could make a difference for you, please reach out. I'm happy to chat about it and tell you, at least give you my opinion of the way that I would see the best way to go.
Amazing. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Peter.
Thanks, Ashley. Thanks, Gisela.